ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Book and Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Steve Nacho Barber, and
Hey,
joining me is my co-host is Delicious Dwaylen Davis.
everybody.
And you know what that's in reference to?
Yeah.
Um, well, Kyle didn't come up with the name Delicious. He just said it should be your nickname,
Yeah.
but he actually came up with the Nacho.
Yeah.
Because for Halloween I had on this mask right here, which scares the crap out of my dog, even when I hold it in my hand. It's actually a lot of fun. If I want her to obey, I just and she
It's like, do it.
yep. And I was wearing, or at least holding, that belt, and that was my costume.
There you go.
And yep. So, and when I posted that picture, that is still my profile picture on Facebook, on my personal profile. And when I put that on there, that's what Kyle said. He said, what he said, Nacho Barber, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? There it is. So I don't know how long it'll last, but at least for right now, it sounds cool. So yeah, you know what? We'll go with it. Good job, Kyle. Once again, you're the king of giving us
There you
nicknames.
go.
But and Halloween was actually the reason why we couldn't record this past Monday.
Hmm. Yep.
And we actually got back to the house probably around like 7:45, 8 o'clock, and I even told my wife, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna text Dwayne and let him know what might Steve be able to record. And then I sat down and fell asleep. So I was like, because I mean, I'm not used to walking, 5 miles,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was walking with my son and his friend,
Hmm.
and I even like at one part it was like we came to like to an intersection and they're going down a road and it's a no outlet road. I'm like, y'all go ahead. I'll just wait right here.
Yeah. I'll be okay.
So, I mean, and there was other parents. I'm not worried about anything happening. There was
Yeah.
actually, but they had some policemen out patrolling, just making sure everything was cool. And,
That's good.
so they came back. They're like, all right. They're like, Dad, why don't you take the mask off? No. I actually had a couple of people recognize me.
Really?
Yeah. And one guy was actually because I was wearing my brand new armchair booking hoodie.
Hmm.
First time I've ever worn it. Only time I've ever worn it so far, but I was wearing that, and I was like, hey, and his name was Tom. I was like, hey, Tom. So you recognize me? Yeah, you're Steve. And he actually follows the show as well. He's
Oh,
also a
okay.
big wrestling fan. His son played baseball with my son.
Oh,
That's
okay.
actually how we met. So, another great dude. And then I had somebody else just walking to me, Steve. I'm like, how'd you recognize me? The scary thing was my phone recognized me when I did the Face ID.
Oh, wow.
Because yeah, and I'm like, now how is that happening? Because I pick it up, and I mean, the only thing sticking out is this,
Hmm.
and I can say, oh, Face ID, I'm going to have to do it just opened right up. I'm like, seriously? I'm like, how secure is that? But if I'm looking at my phone at night with my CPAP on, it won't
Hmm.
work.
Yeah.
I have to do the code. I mean, I'm pretty sure you got that issue,
Hmm.
because you have Face ID on your phone.
I do. I don't have it turned on right now, but I do. I've used it before, and it's like, I don't know. It After a while, I just turn it off because it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't always want to pick up. So I'm like, yeah.
And sometimes I'll forget it's even on, and I'll be like trying to get into like my bank or something, and I'll turn. Oh crap! Let me. But yeah, so we were not able to record on Halloween because well, it's Halloween. We're doing stuff with family, and I wore myself out, and of course, last Thursday we were going to record, but unfortunately, you had the flu run through your family like a Mack truck.
Yep. And then the flu was running through the family, and I was taking care of everybody. And then a day or two later, I got it. So
Oh,
Monday, me and Hope were in the bed because we were both had the flu and we're sick. Kids
I
were
know.
better, but we were sick.
And the Monday before that, I was actually down at the airport picking up my daughter because
Hmm.
she actually flew in last week for a couple of days. We got to spend some time together, and first time I had seen her since the beginning of August. Um,
Right.
because she is absolutely enjoying herself down at Disney. But she
Good.
still she
Good.
still wanted to come home for a couple of days. She said something about missing Ohio weather, and I'm like, you are on absolute crack. But she said, "Oh, I miss seeing like the four seasons, the leaves changing color." I'm like, yeah, but it's going to get cold, and then you would start complaining. I'd rather be in Florida, where
Hmm.
we've been in Florida during Thanksgiving and during December, and we weren't worried about snow, even though one day we were down there in December and it was actually slightly below freezing one morning, and I didn't have any kind of cold weather stuff. So that's when I bought myself a hoodie at the Hard Rock Cafe. So, and I wore it, but I had to take it off a couple hours later. And then before
Right.
we went back to the hotel, I had to put it back on again because that was the day we actually opened the park and closed the park at Universal
Hmm.
because we were doing a tour after the park had closed. It was, yeah, this whole thing. But and by the way, if anybody ever wants to go to Universal or Disney or anything, any kind of trip period, just let me know and I'll get my wife to contact you because that's what she does. But anyway, and I might as well give a shout out to all our stuff, give our contact and listing info.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, might as well. It's a perfect time, perfect segue, except for now I just said the word segue and it ruined it. But if you like to email us, it's armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. Same thing on Instagram, armchairbookingpodcast. On Twitter, it's at Booking Armchair. On TikTok, it's at Armchair Booking. You can find us on YouTube with the video. It's the only video platform I know of that we're on. In as far as audio platforms, we are on just about any kind of audio platform you can think of, even some that I keep constantly finding our podcast on other platforms that I
Really.
didn't load them. Yeah, so it's like third parties that are picking them up. Like I'll load it up on Apple where something else picks it up off Apple to put it somewhere else. And I'm like, okay, cool. As long as they're listening, cool. uh, that would actually kind of explain the listeners we have in different countries, like India. We've had a few listeners in India. We have listeners in Myanmar. We have some down in Australia. We have some in England, in Bournemouth. That's actually another wrestling podcast, and he actually puts out a kind of a fanzine for podcasts.
Hmm.
Yeah, but he's listened to us. We have some listeners in Canada. We do know
Yep.
that from the guys with Wrestling with the Truth, which by the way, we are scheduled to be recording with them, and I'm very happy to announce that because they actually announced it on their podcast,
Cool.
the one that
Cool.
came out yesterday. Uh, the episode we will be on is scheduled to be on the 30th of November. So we'll be recording with them on the 29th, which is the Tuesday.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm looking forward to that. That's another great podcast, Wrestling with the Truth. You have BC Hunter and Jay Meyer. Jay Meyer Myers. Let me see. I got the notes written down, um, because yeah, BC Hunter and Jay Myers. Two great guys, very knowledgeable, very comparable to us because they go
Okay.
old school and new school. Because so I mean, we ought to have some really good conversations with them then. Um,
Yeah.
but if you want to hit up Dwaylen on his social, his Twitter is at fat_daddy73, and you can always find him also on YouTube and TikTok at Big and Fat. He is the fat daddy of the Big and Fat, along with Big Mama, not the
Yep.
wrestler Big Mama, but Hope Big Mama. And you can also find my other podcast, the Cubicle Chat, which we yesterday. We also did our first episode in 3 weeks because of work requirements
Hmm.
and being sick, and actually my daughter being in town, and
Yep.
so finally trying to get the podcast back up and going. Hopefully we don't have too many more delays because it kind of stinks.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're like twice a week, and then all of a sudden we don't record for 2 weeks. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, crap. But um, and that also kind of changes up because like, hey, when we record again, let's do this, and then the next time we are able to record, well, there's other priorities that kind of
Hmm.
make more sense. Like today, we were going to discuss wrestling families, but that was actually supposed to be last week, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, we're right. Uh, in 2 days is going to be Crown Jewel,
Yeah.
and I'm actually looking forward to it.
Actually, I am too.
Yeah. Um, we can't say that about all Crown Jewels. Of
No.
course, there's some we weren't looking forward to, but they end up being good.
Yeah.
So, but this is also a new era. This is no longer the VKM era. This is now the Triple H era.
Yep. Yep.
And just the card itself, you look at it with one very glaring exception, and we all know which match that is. You're like, really, why? Um, and unfortunately, the main event, but
But I will give them credit. Roman has been selling.
he has.
Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman have been have done more to make Logan Paul at least sound like a credible challenger
Mm-hmm.
than any video package I think WWE could have done. Roman Reigns cut like a 30-second promo leaving the ring on Raw this past Monday. And it was better than anything anybody else did promo wise on the show the whole night. And it's like Roman is just at a completely different level. It's like this is, you can tell he is like having the time of his life with this particular character. And he was talking about how basically how there wasn't anybody that could knock him out because they keep hyping up the screws in Logan Paul's hand where he broke his hand. And Roman said that nobody could knock him out. He said he was tired of being humble and tired of letting people think that they have a chance.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it's he may have metal screws, but he doesn't have the power of the punch.
Exactly.
But anyway, I'll put those down. Did I forget anything? I think I got you nailed everything.
No, I think you got it.
Yeah, we just kind of, but and I want to give a couple more shout outs to some different podcasts. Well, I just got to mention Ted because Ted's just awesome.
Yep.
Ted the Hillbilly Hill with the Hill Truth. Go check him out. In fact, I heard some other guys with the Botch Spots and Chair Shots podcast. Those guys, I mean, they actually have their own network of podcasts. And Ted and Wrestling with the Truth have actually become part of their kind of group. And one of the guys, he's like, you know what? He said, one thing I hate about Ted is because he's this heel, but he's so nice. And he knows it's like, yeah, it's like Dwayne and I, we kind of know that we know the feeling. I mean, but he is such an awesome guy, and he supports 100% like any kind of person podcast because he's not just trying to help himself grow, he's trying to help everybody grow. He's trying to grow the internet wrestling podcast community, I guess, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
And because Ted was the one who reached out to us in the beginning.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, I like your podcast." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I listened to his, like, "Oh, you know what? I like yours too." And and also some guys I met this past weekend at Covington. I was able to go to the Northern Wrestling Federation event down in Covington. They're spooktacular, which was actually pretty cool. And they actually gave out during their intermission. They gave out candy to all the kids, and you had people dressed up. Andrew Reed actually dressed up like Eddie from Stranger Things.
Cool.
And even better, his entrance music was Master of Puppets.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dude, right. I was over there marking out, just throwing up the horns, and but I meant to message him and ask him, is that going to be a permanent thing? Because Master of Puppets, I love the song, one of my favorite Metallica songs, and it is my favorite album of all time. It's not really a ring entrance song, to me, but I mean, if he goes with it, he goes with it. It may have just been for the whole, the whole theme. But I met some guys from the Dad World Order podcast. And first I saw the shirts and I thought it was Noah Gabriel's shirt because, he has, Born to Wrestle, in the NWO thing. But then I looked and I was like, wait a minute, that's a totally different thing, podcast. So went up and introduced myself, and Randy, our friend Randy, was there with me. Okay. And, we got talking, and he looked at my shirt. Of course, it's been a long time since I've been to a wrestling event and not sported one of our shirts. In fact, I got 2 new shirts, both long sleeve, and I was wearing one of those. And I cannot remember his name. And dude, I apologize if you're listening or watching, but he said, first of all, I love the name. He said, that's awesome. So we got some props right there.
Cool.
And I went and they are on YouTube only right now, as far as I know. So I went and watched the show. They do a live show on Sunday night. It's very similar to TNC Sports Talk. They go through StreamYard, and so they actually do it live on YouTube. And they've had, in fact, that this past Sunday night, who did they have? They had somebody on there. Was it Wildcat? Maybe Wildcat. I mean, and I know, well, they're going to have Noah Gabriel on there. He told me that himself earlier today. He's going to be there pretty soon. Next week, we're tentatively getting Noah, Gabriel, and possibly the Prodigy, Kobe Kane. They're the NWF Tag Team Champions. We may have them on next Thursday. Probably Noah for sure. Kobe, it's the Prodigy. It's up in the air. He's got to check because he might have a booking. But
Mm-hmm.
that'd be awesome if we get both of them on there. Noah's it'll be you know, we always look forward to having Noah on the show. It'll be our first
Oh
time
yeah.
having Prodigy on. And he's another great wrestler. If you've never seen him, I mean, he's you ought to see his drop kick. He's one of those, I mean, you just standing drop kick and all of a sudden he just up boom right in the face and you're like, oh, okay.
Like, all right.
But he's really good. And but it was nice seeing a lot of the ones because I'd been to an NWF show a couple weeks before in Mount Orb, and that's been the first time I'd been to one of those in a few months.
Right.
Because I'd missed the last one because I was down in Florida. But then I got thinking, it's like, man, it's been a while since I've been to an NWF show, period. And so I was able to go to two in 3 weeks, and had a good time as always. And I didn't get to talk to as many people as what I'd liked, just because I mean Halloween. I mean it was actually kind of busy, and
Mm-hmm.
and then Randy and I, of course Randy also lives in Mount Orb, and so we had the nice drive back, and
Right.
so
Excuse me.
but I mean it was a good time if you are in the Cincinnati area. If you get a chance to go check out a Northern Wrestling Federation show, do it. And if you're looking to become a professional wrestler, Bone Crushers. That's the school that Roger Ruffin, he's the owner of the NWF, and he also runs Bone Crushers along with Wildcat Chris Harris, former NWA
World
Tag
Tag Team Champion.
Champion,
Multiple
time, former Pro Wrestling Illustrated, one half of the Tag Team of the Year in 2004. I mean, that's when I saw that. I mean, I'm still just in awe. Like we actually interviewed somebody who has a
Yeah.
PWI award. I mean, that's
Yep.
amazing. Great guy, by the way. He put this on his Facebook, and so that's why I don't feel bad. Oh, I don't feel bad anyway. But he just celebrated 1 year sober.
Awesome.
Yep.
That is awesome.
And for those, I mean, who don't know, especially with him, what a big deal it was just a year ago that unfortunately he got in a little bit of trouble with the law.
Yep.
So and obviously, he's doing great since then. He's like, you know what, I'm focused. I got too much to lose. And now he's become like the guy at the NWF. I mean, can you talk about he's the commissioner now.
Mm-hmm.
He does all the stuff. I mean, it's just a great time. Go check it out. But for now, we're going to be focusing on Crown Jewel.
Yep.
And the first thing I got to say is it has not been canceled.
No, not yet. They're planning on, they said that they have contingency plans in place. And right now the plan is to go ahead with it, but they're still, watching, they're monitoring everything really close.
Yep.
So,
and yeah, because when it comes to the Middle East, I mean, and I don't want to delve into politics too much, but there's always tension over there, especially between Iran and everybody else, and Saudi Arabia and Iran, they do not get along very well.
Right.
And so Iran, with all the, they've been having a lot of unrest there in the country, a lot of protests, things like that, and so they're some discs are saying maybe fallout from that, but
yeah,
either way, if the WWE, if they do decide, look, it's too unsafe, you can't get mad at them because that would be a prime target.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I mean, how many people can fit in that stadium? Like 100,000?
I think 100,000 people or more can fit in that stadium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a prime target, unfortunately.
Yeah, and with it being an American event.
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead and give our thoughts on it. like we're going to go ahead and say, hey, it's going to happen because I think it should happen. Because it's been a long time since I've actually looked forward to a Crown Jewel event.
Yep.
And this is on a Saturday. We know it'll start around noon, I think.
Yeah. I probably won't get to watch it live because we've got some family stuff. We've got a family obligation Saturday afternoon, but I will try to check it out either that night or Sunday. And
do you have the Peacock Network on your phone?
I do. I do.
So what you got to do is like, hold on for a second. All right, what?
Yeah, that's a good way for my wife to tell me. So no, I'll just wait till I get home. Steve's trying
so
to get me cut here, people.
next thing you know, she'll be coming knocking on my door
Yeah.
like, did you tell him to take his phone? Like, my bad.
I'm
And
sorry.
I'll put on the mask. Maybe she wouldn't recognize me. Everybody else recognize me. Maybe she won't.
Yeah.
The phone recognize me. But um, and actually, since they have the main event listed first, I'll actually start at the bottom. And this past Monday, new women's tag team champions.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan because I thought it was too soon to take them off Dakota Kai and Io Sky. Because I mean
Yeah,
they're just building this group up, and then they should have won. They kind of dropped the ball with them in the beginning when they didn't win the tag team tournament,
right.
which they should have. And then they ended up winning the titles. Now they lose the titles to Miss Bliss and Asuka just, 5 days before the pay-per-view. Why not just have the match on the pay-per-view? If you were going to change, if your titles need to change hands, then just wait and do it at the pay-per-view, because it was obvious they were going to book them in a match, because now there's a return match. Asuka and Miss Bliss are defending the tag titles against, Io Sky and Dakota Kai. So to me, it didn't make much sense to take the belts off of them 5 days before the pay-per-view.
If anybody's wondering why we say Miss Bliss, it's because Dwaylen right beside him has a device named after the first name of Miss Bliss.
Yep.
And every time we say the name, actually, I can say the name because it's not going to come through. It's Alexa.
Uh-huh.
Okay, making sure it didn't pop up on my phone or the device in the other room, because some of them things they can pick up, they can hear
Oh
noise
yeah.
for a
Oh
while.
yeah.
But every time we said it, all of a sudden you'd hear his device talking to him. He's like, "Shut up!
Yeah.
we're recording."
It's like stop it.
Stop it. But this match, I mean, honestly, I have a feeling they're going to put the titles back on Damage Control.
That's what I think. One, I think that should happen. And
Yeah.
two, I think that's where they're going to go. I think, like I said, I don't understand the reason for the switch, but I think they're going to put the belts back on them.
And Miss Bliss and Asuka, I can't put either one of them in a team because they stand out so much as singles.
Yeah, the only like Asuka, this is her third women's tag team title with 3 different partners. She won them with Kairi Sane, which her and Kairi Sane were they were perfect as tag team partners. Their chemistry was great and everything. Then she won them with Charlotte Flair,
I forgot about that one.
made no sense. Good. And then now she's won them with Miss Bliss. But it's like, can we get Killer Oscar back, and have her challenge for a women's title? It's been, how long has it been? Yeah, it's been forever since she's challenged for a singles title in the women's division. Same for Miss Bliss. And I don't know. I just think they could do more with those two as singles. And I think they need to put the belts back on Sky and Kai.
Cultaholic, they actually have their tier list that they do. And sometimes they just have the ranking. Sometimes they'll do like a tier list. Sometimes they'll just do a ranking. And they have one for every single tag team champion in WWF through WWE, starting when WWF officially broke away from NWA.
Okay.
So you're talking like very early 80s.
Right.
But the ones they put on the bottom were the teams they put together just to split them apart.
Right.
And that's what this almost kind of feels like with Asuka and Miss Bliss is.
Yeah.
They put them together just to split them apart.
Now, what I do like though is whenever Asuka and Io Sky are in the ring together, because you can tell they automatically go back to their Stardom days, and they are so stiff, and it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, I mean, you can tell they're okay. They're throwing the Japanese strong style. They don't care
Yep.
where
Hmm.
they're at. They're going to be,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're going to show you what they're capable of, and they're
Hmm.
capable of a lot.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think yeah, it's going to be Damage Control. They're going to get the titles back.
Yeah. I do too.
Um, and then they're all going to go back and they're going to go. You know what? It's really hot having to wear these coveralls because, of course, I mean, they're in Saudi
Hmm.
Arabia, so they have to.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the one kind of suck thing for them is because they, you know, the way those arenas, the way those stadiums are set up, we said it before, it looks like a convection oven.
Hmm. Yep.
And even if it is dark over there, I've been over there in that area of the world, and granted, it's not the summertime.
Hmm.
You know, because when I got off a plane in Kuwait in 2002, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was already over 100 degrees.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you're talking like the darkest time of night. There's no sun to be found anywhere.
Hmm.
And we're all like, oh my God, it's so hot. But, and you got, I mean, they're in that with all the people, all the body heat that's going to be
Yep.
generated. Um,
All the lights, all the pyro, just,
yeah.
everything. Plus, like you said, the women are going to have to be covered, completely.
Hmm.
Like, at least they're not having to wear those like
All the
bot.
burkas.
Yeah, well, like when they first started doing these shows, they had like the big baggy t-shirts and then a
Yes.
bodysuit under it and all this, and it's like they're actually getting to do more as far as making it look like an actual wrestling outfit instead of just you're a woman, so we're just covering you up type
Right.
of thing. But I mean, they're coming a long ways for them, but it's got to be miserable wearing all
Hmm.
that.
I think it'll be a good match,
Hmm.
because just look at the four women in the ring.
Oh yeah, the talent in the ring, it'll be an excellent match. I just think they kind of jumped the gun taking the titles off Damage Control.
Yeah. But the next match, it's a list anyway. Like I said, I'm going from the bottom up.
Hmm.
Uh, the Usos and the Brawling Brutes. Oh, this is
Uh, that's going to be a good match.
yeah. It's going to
Because
be.
they're
It's going to get nasty.
yeah, because Rich Holland is actually, he's a pretty tough guy. He's actually a lot better in the ring. He's getting better all the time.
Hmm.
And then we all know what Pete Dunne's capable of. I mean, I
Yeah.
know they call him Butch, but if you look at him, everything about him says Pete Dunne now. So I'm hoping they go back to that after a while.
They accidentally referred to him as. They just said done. He grabs
Hmm.
done or something like that. I'm like, and I was like, are you watching right now? He just called it done. So maybe that's a sign that he might be
could
going back to that.
could be. Um, and of course, it's the Usos, so you're going to get an excellent match anyway.
Yeah.
But I think this will be a good match. I don't know. Did they say if the tag titles are on the line?
Yeah. The
Okay.
undisputed. Yeah. So
Um,
both
I
tag
don't.
titles.
I don't see. Um, I don't see the Usos losing those just yet.
Not until they pass up New Day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know why they're wanting to pass up New Day. Well, some people said they'd rather have a team hold the titles that's not doing the Freebird role. And I'm like,
Okay.
I was like, well, Demolition, they did that at the very, very end after they were already past their long reign.
Yeah, they did the record in their first reign. So like
Right.
when they were
So
doing the Freebird rule, it was during the second reign, and Axe was barely wrestling.
right. Because I mean he'd had some medical issues and
Hmm.
he almost died because he had developed a shrimp allergy and
Yeah,
that he
didn't
didn't know
realize it.
until
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yes, I think the Usos are going to take that one. I don't think you're going to see one scientific move in the match. You're going to see a lot of punches and kicks.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Well, I take that back. You might see some scientific stuff
some, but I mean,
from Pete Dunne.
yeah.
You're
I mean,
definitely going to see some joint manipulation because he's going to break some fingers if he can.
yeah. And the Usos, I mean, are very capable. of that because I mean they're Anawais.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wrestling is in their blood. I mean, they as soon as they walk out of the womb, they jump right in the ring and they put somebody in
Yeah.
a headlock, and they make the person submit to that headlock. I mean, that's how good they are. And so I mean, they are perfectly capable of doing all those moves. I mean, they get a lot of good aerial moves, which we don't really see that from the Brawling Brutes, but the
Right.
Usos, you do see the moves, and I would just have to make sure though the Usos are actually feeling Usy.
Uzi. That promo was fantastic. Sami Zayn should get an MVP award because he
that
is
was
just he makes every one of those segments so good.
that
He, that
one it lit
he
Twitter up.
oh it did, and he broke all the entire bloodline, Paul Heyman
All of
included.
them.
Everybody. Jay even tried to turn around away from the hard
But
camera.
he had his hand over his mouth
Yeah,
like
trying to
this.
laugh, and Roman's like, "No, come on," because Roman's already laughing at that point, and he's like, come on, turn around here." But yeah, that was good. It's still burning up Twitter. People have somebody Lance Storm requested somebody make an edit of Sami Zayn clips where he's dancing and doing different stuff, but using getting jiggy with it. And somebody did, and they called it getting oozy with it. And it's so good. It's so good.
um, that the only disappointment about this one is Sami Zayn's not going to be there.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, don't need to go into the reasons why. We've actually discussed it before.
Yeah, we know why.
Yeah, and
Which honestly, surprisingly, the Usos are going to be there.
oh, I don't think I'm going to guess Saudi Arabia doesn't have the kind of restrictions like Canada and some other countries do when it comes to have you ever been arrested for a DUI?
They must not, because I know where was it where were they when Solo debuted and helped Roman keep the title?
Wales.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
the
they're in Cardiff.
Usos. Yeah, and the Usos were not there because they couldn't travel over there.
Oh, and what's why? Okay, England and Canada are both known for their beer.
Hmm.
Saudi
But they,
Arabia is known for not having any kind of alcohol whatsoever.
yeah,
Which one would
it,
you think they'd be allowed to go into?
yeah, but yeah, but it should be a good match. But the Usos will retain.
Uh, and not just any beer; they're both known for good beer. I mean, not that I drink anymore. It's been 9.5 years now since I had a drink, and I know it's been what? How long for you now?
It is going on 20, it'll be 22 years in February.
Nice. So um, but I mean, I used to like beer. Actually, I like Jim Beam better, but when it comes to beer, when I was stationed in England, um, because of potential black market and because the stuff on base was not taxed, uh, any kind of hard alcohol was rationed. You could only buy so much
Hmm.
per month or per year and whatever. Beer was not part of that,
Oh, okay.
and they actually figured out because the Englishmen and the English women aren't really fond of American beer. It's like
Hmm.
it is pretty weak. It's like pea water compared to the stuff they drink.
Right.
And I can attest to that because I've sat and had, a couple pints in the pub that was right by my house before. And yeah, so they didn't even bother trying to ration
Right.
that. Even though somebody was telling me apparently Bud Light or Budweiser is very popular over there. But
Hmm.
but anyway, um, but yeah, I think the Usos will retain. It's going to be a brutal match. If it's not brutal, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they'll come up with some storyline reason why Sammy is not going to be there. It'll probably be like tomorrow night during SmackDown. They'll say,
Yeah.
"Sammy, you stay home." Of course, I mean
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Well, most people know why.
Yeah.
Some fans don't know why. If you have to go, just go look it up.
Yeah.
Um, But next match they have listed Bianca and Bailey. Bianca Belair and Bailey. How many B's can you have in a match?
Yeah. Bailey needs to win this. She
I
should
was
have. She
kind of
should have
thinking the same
won.
thing.
She should have won at the last pay-per-view, and they didn't. Um, which is fine. I mean, Bianca's a good champion, but I think Bailey needs to win this, especially I think, to solidify Damage Control as a legit group and a legit threat. They need to put the tag titles back on Sky and Kai, and Bailey needs to win the world title.
And that way they just dominate.
That way they just dominate the whole division, and then everybody has to chase them for the titles.
Now, with Survivor Series coming up, and we know Rousey, she's not dropping her title before Survivor Series.
Rousey is probably not dropping her title until WrestleMania, because I don't see them having her drop it to anybody except Becky.
Which that would make sense.
Because the original plan before Vince McMahon shoehorned Charlotte in was it was supposed to be Ronda and Becky 1-on-1. So rumor has it that that is the plan for next year's WrestleMania is Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch 1-on-1 for the SmackDown Women's title. They got to figure out how to get Becky on SmackDown by then, but
yeah. I mean they'll figure that out, but
yeah.
But as far as Survivor Series goes, you know, because a lot of times they have, you know, the titles. Of course, that's the only one that really, that one and the U.S. and Intercontinental titles, they're not merged either.
Right.
Which would you rather see, Rousey against Bianca or Rousey against Bailey?
Power-wise, I would like to see Bianca Belair throw Ronda Rousey around the ring like a rag doll. Just because, and I only say that because Ronda Rousey is playing a heel, which is perfect for her because her arrogance, her real life arrogance oozes through the TV whenever you watch her. It's like you can tell, you can literally see the contempt that she has for the wrestling fans. And it's like, for somebody who supposedly grew up as such a wrestling fan and got the blessing of Roddy Piper and all this, and you sure don't like the people who put money in your pocket.
Right.
You don't like the people that supported you coming in. And it's like, why are you even doing this if you don't care nothing about the fans? It's one thing to play a character that doesn't care about the fans. All heels do that. But this is not her playing a character.
This is her.
This is just her. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like she doesn't have the respect from the business that she claims that she has.
Kind of reminds me of Brock Lesnar a little bit because he kind of had that mentality for what I think he's actually kind of.
I think he's actually having fun with it now. I think he's actually got more appreciation for it now. But yeah, he absolutely had that same type of attitude to where it's like he was almost above it. Especially when he first came back in 2012, when he came back after being gone and doing UFC, and he came back. It's like he had this attitude like he was just above. He was better than pro wrestling, and it's like nobody's better than the business, buddy. It just doesn't work that way.
Oh, and this is a last woman standing match.
Ooh, that's going to be good. Yeah, I'm going with Bailey because the other two members of Damage Control are definitely going to help her win this match. But Bailey should win. Bailey's my pick to win.
And I will agree with that one because there's no reason for it not to be like that.
No.
You know, a last woman standing match, which means there could be interference with no disqualification.
Yep.
Don't know if Miss Bliss and Asuka because they've kind of helped her out before, but there's not really like there's an alliance there.
Yeah.
But with Damage Control, I mean, that is a faction. So, of course,
Yep.
they're going to be helping each other out.
Yeah.
And when you're the champion, a lot of times, especially as a face, you're standing alone.
Yeah, you're by yourself.
Which, by the way, I did see this in the news. Ric Flair apparently does not like fans using the terms face and heels because it's an
Well,
insider term.
oh my God. Ric Flair needs to shut up. I've just
Yep.
had enough of Ric Flair. I appreciate everything you've done for the business. Greatest champion of all time, in my opinion.
But shut it.
But shut it. It's a different time. You know, maybe that was that was probably the case back, in Flair's heyday, but it's a completely different time. It's moved past you. Shut up.
Yeah, but I don't like hearing a 70-year-old man talk about all the women he,
I
he
don't either.
had, while he was away from his wife and kids,
Yeah.
bragging about it. So, um, but the next match they have listed, and I think this is going to be another one where there will not be one scientific move whatsoever, because one of them does not know how to do a scientific move, probably. And he's not expected to. Braun Strowman and Omos.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I care nothing about this match. This is the only match on the card I don't care. This is a Raw or SmackDown main event. This is not a pay-per-view match. Especially when you got Braun Strowman saying in interviews that this match with Omos is comparable to Hogan and Andre from WrestleMania 3.
No, this is comparable to
Kane and the Great Khali from WrestleMania 23.
I was about to say it had to be. I was even thinking Undertaker and Elegante or Giant Gonzalez by that time, because you have somebody who's really big going against somebody who's really bigger.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, I mean, Strowman's good for what he is, the whole monster among men gimmick, but he ain't no Undertaker, and he ain't carrying Omos. Undertaker couldn't get a good match out of Giant Gonzalez.
And that says something, because Undertaker got a good match out of everybody.
Yeah. So if he couldn't get a good match out of that dude, Braun Strowman ain't getting a good match out of Omos. I mean, that was my problem with Omos to begin with. It's like you're only going to get so much out of this guy. And now you have two monsters with similar gimmicks. So how do you push one without burying the other?
And the sad thing, Omos, big dude, he's a legitimate athlete.
Yeah.
He played basketball at South Florida, a Division I school.
Yeah,
it's not a Power 5, but it's still a Division I school.
It's still Division I. I mean, even if it was Division II, it's still a legit team. He's still a legit athlete, but that doesn't always translate to wrestling. You know, you've got guys who've played basketball before. You've got your big shows. You've got your Kevin Nash. It's just
you got your Undertaker. He also played Texas Wesleyan.
Yep, you got your Undertakers. Some guys can make that transition to pro wrestling. Some guys can't. I mean, I'm not saying Omos is doing bad. He's green.
He's green.
He's
green.
He's still green as grass. Yeah. And Strowman, who's somehow comparing himself to Hulk Hogan,
he shot himself in the mouth when he made that comparison. It's like, dude, come on. We welcomed you back.
Yeah, we welcomed you back. It's still, especially after you did that whole control your narrative stuff with EC3 and all the dumb comments you made then, and but we welcomed you back, and then you say something just completely insane.
I mean, that was like when Paul Roma is saying, Ric Flair wishes he was me. It's like, what? You were a job guy in WWE. I mean, the most you ever had was Power and Glory, and that was mostly Hercules. They had the Powerplex. I'll give them that.
They had the Powerplex. They were a good team. They just weren't together long enough to be a great team. They were good for the time that they were together. Powerplex was fantastic. But at the end of the day, Paul Roman's still a job guy. That's, that was his deal.
And this
He
right
should
here,
he should have just considered himself extremely lucky that he was brought in to be one of the horses. But this right here, comparing this match to Hogan and Andre from WrestleMania 3, no, we're not.
except for,
No.
Hogan Andre drew over 93,000 people into the
Yeah.
Silver Dome. This
Yeah.
one is barely going to, I don't even think this one would draw 9,000
And
people
here's the
in
thing.
the arena.
Nobody's yeah, okay. Nobody's watching Crown Jewel for this match.
No, not by a long shot.
Not at all. Here's my pick, so we can move on past it because this is just
Garbage.
garbage. Uh, I see Strowman winning. I think Omos needs to win more, but I see Strowman winning. Because honestly, they're probably paying Strowman more, and they're probably like, we need to get our money's worth out of this dude, while he's here. So,
Strowman by DQ. MVP interference.
works that way. It doesn't bury Omos, and
Exactly.
uh, Strowman still comes out looking good. Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
All right, but moving on, a match I am looking forward to seeing. There's not one match on here that's going to have like any kind of science. Well, no, never mind. There is one coming up that could have some good scientific moves. Most of these are going to be brutal. Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross
In a cage.
in a cage.
Yeah,
That's
that's gonna be a brutal match. I am looking forward to that. Hopefully there's no shenanigans, like there was at Cardiff, because that just honestly it just made Karrion Kross look weak. That he had to use Scarlett to spray stuff
oh
in
yeah,
McIntyre's face in order for him to beat him.
that's right. Because
And
she
it's
had it
like,
was supposed to be mace.
yeah,
It's like that wasn't mace because you don't use water to get out mace out of somebody's eyes. You use
nope,
milk.
yep. But inside the cage, I say let them go
Ooh.
and just let them be brutal, but let Karrion Kross win, because
Yes,
Drew McIntyre, he doesn't need these wins. Karrion Kross is just coming back into the company after getting let go. He needs the wins to build that momentum, because they're wanting
hmm
him to be the top heel on SmackDown. So he's got to win some.
and let it be a back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't. It shouldn't be a squash either
No, we
way.
don't. Yeah, we don't need it to be a squash. Yeah, make it be a believable back and forth fight, and just have Karrion Kross be able to land the knockout blow.
And I just want to hear Karen Cross's entrance music because I texted you the other day and I say, dude,
Yep.
his
Yeah.
entrance music is absolute fire. It really
Oh
is.
yeah, it really is.
Love his song. In fact, I meant to go. I meant to go like on YouTube and try to find it. Just go. Yeah, that's a good song. Kind of like what I did with Bobby Roodes and Shinsuke Nakamura's when I first heard them. And
you,
oh, what was his name? Pac in AEW. What was his name in
Neville.
Neville?
Yeah.
Yeah, his entrance music was also good because I
Yeah.
actually did find that one.
If you
But
go to WWE has a music channel. If you
on
go
YouTube,
there, yeah, it has
okay,
like a ton of their theme songs on there.
okay, I'll have to go check that out then. Because yeah, his song is just yeah.
Yeah.
Alistair Black's when he was on there,
Mm-hmm.
same
Yep.
thing. Um, but yeah, that's a match I'm looking forward to. It's going to be brutal. The next match is one of the ones when they got the wrestlers coming out pulling them apart from each other on Raw and SmackDown. You're like, all
Oh
right,
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, they're this is
When
going to be a
Triple
fight.
H is out there separating people,
Yeah,
it's going to be a fight. And we're talking about Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley.
this has been actually this match has been built up for a couple of years just because
Yeah,
different circumstances. Every time they're about to have it, something happens and they're not
something
able to.
happens. And Bobby Lashley's been calling for this match. He's been calling Brock Lesnar out off and on since he come back to the company.
And that
Um,
was how long ago?
and that was a while ago now. This is after he left. This is after he left Impact and came back to WWE. He's been wanting this match, and they got the match at the Rumble, which Bobby Lashley won the WWE title, but there was interference from Roman.
Right.
So with this one, there's no interference from any outside parties. It is just two big bulls
Mm-hmm.
fighting each other. And so far, it has been awesome because like Lesnar fired the first shot, basically costing Bobby Lashley the U.S. title by attacking him on Raw. But then Bobby Lashley got his receipt quickly,
Mhm.
putting Lesnar through the barricade and through the announce table. Um, my pick would be Bobby Lashley because it's not going to hurt.
That's who I want to win.
That's who I want to win.
Yeah.
That's going to be my pick. But and here's the thing, and I say that because Vince McMahon is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Vince McMahon always pushed Brock Lesnar to the moon over everybody. Triple H may not do that. Triple H may be like, look, it's time for you to do some jobs because everybody's done the job for you.
Mm-hmm.
So Bobby's going over. So just deal with it.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, get in your private jet and leave.
And go back to Saskatchewan.
Yep. And by the way, if you don't like that, we'll take your private jet from you because that was part of his contract.
Yep.
So, and by the way, you said that orange juice you're drinking is sugar free, right?
Yep. Zero sugar.
Zero sugar. All right.
Yep.
All right. I got to check that one out too. Yeah. All the diabetics, we got to stick together.
Oh yeah.
So,
definitely.
but yeah, I mean, like I said, two former MMA guys, two guys with legit wrestling backgrounds because, you know, Brock Lesnar, he may have been NCAA champion at Minnesota, but Bobby Lashley also wrestled in college too.
He wrestled in college, and he was also won the military Olympics.
Yes, before he got hurt, and it wasn't wrestling. Was that when he was involved in a bank robbery? And that sounds bad the way I put that. He was in a bank when a bank robbery happened.
I believe so. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was. Yeah,
and
he was a patron at the bank, and the robbery happened, and he got
he got
injured somehow.
yeah. I don't think he got shot, but I mean,
No,
he was probably trying to stop the guys, and
probably.
either there they just looked at him and said, "Oh, I don't think a bullet will go through him. Let me see," and it may have just bounced off. I mean,
Hey, you never know because the
I
dude,
mean,
it's just a freak of nature. They
he
both
really
are,
is. Yeah,
and so yeah, this I'm really looking forward to this because this is just going to be a fight.
yeah.
My pick
Like
is
you said, two
yeah.
bulls. Just mm.
My pick is Bobby Lashley.
um, God, that's hard to choose. I mean, it's hard to choose really either one of them. I mean, I think Bobby Lashley should win. I want him to win.
I think Bobby Lashley needs to
Hmm.
win this match and then start marching his way back to the world title.
I think Lashley should. The only alternate would be a double DQ or double count out
Yeah.
because this is the first. It's only just a regular singles match. There's no
Yeah.
stipulations. And this is one I could see them getting in a fight outside the ring and just
That's
going all over
true.
the
And
place.
just going all over the place and getting counted out. And you know what would be the perfect end to this feud? And any pay-per-view that's coming up, put them in the cell. Since we're not getting any more Hell in the
That's
Cell pay-per-views.
thankfully,
Yeah.
because you take away from it when you do it too much.
Yeah. But it just becomes like they said on Adam Wilborn said on What Culture News when they first talked about doing away with the Hell in a Cell pay per view. He said he was glad because he's like, it goes from being a feud ender to being a date on a calendar to
Mm-hmm.
where, oh, well, Hell in a Cell pay per view's up. We got to have a couple of Hell in a Cell matches because it's on the
Yeah.
calendar.
And it's like, all right, that guy over there in that jobber, let's put him in a cell.
Yeah.
Let's put
But
James Ellsworth and Almost in a cell.
yeah.
So,
But this would be a perfect match to have in the cell.
yes.
So
Whew.
I would be okay with a double count out or whatever, double disqualification if that's where it will lead
Mhm.
to eventually having them in the cell.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like I said, it's the first match. There's no stipulations. And so let's start it right. And like I
Yep.
said, eventually end
Yeah.
in the cell.
Because you could have I would be fine with a multiple pay-per-view feud with these two.
Yeah. And Triple H, I mean, he's a fan of old school anyway, where you didn't just have these month-long stories. Okay, let's move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
No, stretch it out.
Yeah.
You know,
That
Uh,
way, you get to the blow off match, and it truly is a blow off match, not just, oh well, we spent 3 weeks with that, so let's move on to something else.
right. And and now, granted, let's not do it too much because how many times did Cena and Orton have
Yeah,
matches at
yeah,
pay-per-views?
yeah.
In fact, the last one they did was the Rumble 2014, and they got booed because people were tired of seeing it.
Well, yeah. I mean, they had like 347 matches between each other, so it's
Yeah,
like
it's like, all right, we're tired of this.
it's just too much. But yeah, I mean, but a little, good, a decent length feud with these two would be okay, and to especially get us through until the Rumble.
And another good brutal match. The next match is one I actually am looking forward to seeing some good moves. This is like the one match on here that I expect to see some
Hmm.
wrestling moves and some submission moves and some scientific moves, and it's the OC. How are they calling the OC?
The original club.
The original club.
Hmm.
I know they can't call them the Bullet Club because
Yeah.
reasons.
Well, they tried to call him just the club, and then nobody really liked that. So then they just started calling him the OC, the original club,
Now,
which is
granted,
not entirely true, because AJ didn't join Bullet Club until much later. The same with Doc Gallows. Carl Anderson is an original member, like founding member of Bullet Club. Him and Finn Balor
and Finn Balor, yeah.
were the founding members of Bullet Club.
So you got a 6-man match: AJ, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson. The OC, the ones that just a few years ago they were loving beating on John Cena,
Yeah.
and that was they wasted them so bad
Mm-hmm.
back then. All that potential, and eventually Anderson and
Yep.
Gallows left, and
Yep.
um, and then my wife's cousin actually met Carl Anderson,
Cool.
or Chad Allegra, his real name, because
Mm-hmm.
apparently she works with a woman who was like sisters with his wife or something, or best
Oh,
friend,
okay.
something. But she actually met him because she sent me a picture of them because she actually like met him on a beach and them on a beach. And I'm like, yeah, Heather, I hate you. you know. Um, but speaking of almost meeting somebody, I got to tell the story real quick. Okay, so you know how AEW they just had their event in Cincinnati,
Mm-hmm.
um, not last week but the week before, and of course I didn't go because I didn't know if I would be able to get away from work to go,
Right.
and I also wasn't sure if I'd have the money to go. And as it turns out, I had both, the time and the money, which is always a good thing when you have both time and money.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Jamie from True Crime Cast sends me a message. Yo, Steve, are you at the AEW event in Cincinnati? And as soon as you send me that, I'm like, nope. I was like, I'm guessing you are. And he's like, yeah. He said, I thought you'd be here. I was like, no. And I explained, I was like, yeah, I didn't think I'd have the time or the money. And, but I said, I'm going to definitely catch the next one. But for those who aren't aware, I came across True Crime Cast because they were on Chris Jericho's podcast, talking about true crime story. And they've actually been on there a few times. And since then, I became a follower of their podcast, and I've actually became friends with them. I've actually submitted a couple of stories, and they've actually shouted out the podcast on their show, and they've been on Twitter. Somebody says, "Hey, could somebody recommend a wrestling podcast for me?" Well, Jamie and John, I'm assuming it's Jamie because he does more of the stuff for the True Crime Cast because they also have the Bless Their Hearts podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and so they kind of split the duties on that one. Well, Jamie shared our podcast. He said, "Go check this one out." Today on Bless Their Hearts, when they put out, they were talking about, they went to this show. Well, Jamie's birthday is like now, he turns 40.
Mm-hmm.
His wife and John, his co-host, they secretly arranged for them to meet Chris Jericho.
That's awesome.
And they've, even though they've been on each other's podcast, they've never actually met him,
Right.
face to face. And they also told a story. John happened to run into a coworker there. It's like, huh? What are you doing here? And so his coworker got to also meet Chris Jericho. And I'm like, I was there.
Yeah,
I could
you
have possibly met
met Chris
Chris
Jericho.
Jericho.
Yeah.
So, oh well, you know. But 3 days before that, I actually met Kane. I met Jake Roberts. I met Baby Doll. I met,
Yeah.
some other ones. So, I mean, it's not like I've never met any wrestlers, but I mean, that one would have been, you know, pretty cool too. And I also would have met Jamie and John for the first time face to face too. But,
Right.
yeah, True Crime Cast. The one there, this is their coffee mug right here, but along with our coffee mug,
Yep.
which you can get at tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. That's one thing I did miss something earlier.
Mm.
I didn't put out our merch site. The same one where I just got the hoodie and I got the long sleeve T-shirts and
Mm.
I got the tumbler, which they no longer sell, which sucks. Um, but anyway, so back to the 6-man match. So you know the OC, AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson against. I don't want to say the Judgment Day, but they're calling the Judgment Day, so I guess I go with against Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio with Rhea Ripley. Man, this is a hard one to call because who needs to go over?
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day, yeah. And specifically Dominic.
Yeah. Dominic needs to get the pin because if they're going to make him believable as a heel, he's going to have to get some wins under his belt. I mean, he beat AJ on Raw, which through interference, of course. Of course, it makes sense. He's a heel. He's
Yeah.
in a heel group. But yeah, Judgment Day needs to win this, and he needs to get the pin.
Now, granted, he's right now he's still got that go away heat.
Yeah.
Oh man, who does he kind of reminds me of Eric Watts. I don't know if
A
that's a
little bit.
fair comparison, but
Like his in-ring skill, I don't have any issue with. Yes, he's still technically green, but he's way better than anybody should be at his stage of his career.
yes.
You know, it's just, and people don't want to give people time to grow as far as the promo stuff and getting more comfortable in front of the crowd and more comfortable on the microphone and things like that. That takes time. There, you don't pop out. You don't just, you don't just start wrestling and you're talking like, and you're cutting promos like William Regal or, you know, The Rock or Austin or Flair or Arn Anderson. That comes even for them. That came. That wasn't, you know, that wasn't always the case. So I think Dominic will get there. I think people just need to be a little more patient, but they're used to, people are also not used to the little slower pace that Triple H goes with than Vince did. Vince was so much like everything was like fast food, and it was like, oh, you got to hurry up and get this and this and this and this, and Vince never really gave anybody time to grow if they needed it. He was just like, oh, well, they're not catching, the crowd's not catching on to them, so let's get rid of them.
Yeah.
I think Dominic will be good in this role. People just need to give him time.
And I don't know about the putting him with Rhea Ripley. That's such a weird.
It is weird, but I am here for it because Rhea Ripley is fantastic.
Oh, I would have put her with Finn Balor before I'd put her with Dominic, though.
Well, they needed somebody to. They needed somebody to get kind of draw that heel out of him, and it makes sense for it to be her because then he's under he's under the spell of this alluring woman and all this stuff. So I mean, it made sense, and she's just the little things that she does. Like there was a split outside of the ring or something, I think on Raw, and was laying against the guardrail, and the fans were like heckling her or whatever, and
Oh, that was she
she
untied the
reached
shoe.
through and untied the guy's
Yes, I
shoe.
saw that.
Just the little things she does, and like when she body slammed Doc Gallows.
Yeah.
And then she's like in his face, and she's like, "Do you know who I am?"
I mean, that's just even if he did kind of help himself
I
up
mean,
some,
but
he
she
still has
stalled.
to have the strength. Yeah,
And
exactly.
she stalled with him. She held him for a minute before. It wasn't just a real quick scoop or anything. She held him in the air before she put him over. So it's like,
Yes.
yeah,
And part of this also kind of reminds me of like the Water Boy. I'm pretty sure Dominic's, calling up Ray. Yeah, Dad, and I like Vicky, and she likes me, and she showed me her boobies, and I like them too. That's what
yeah,
it kind of. So, and come think of it, Rhea with the lipstick and everything, she kind of looks like Vicky Valancourt.
yeah, a little bit. Yep,
If y'all have never seen the Water Boy, go watch it. Go check it
yeah,
out. Paul
yep.
White, The Big Show, he's in it.
Captain Insano.
Captain,
Yep.
yeah, Captain Insano. Yeah. And also Lawrence Taylor's in there. He's like, that reminds me, don't smoke crack.
Yeah.
And that's Lawrence Taylor saying that.
Uh-huh.
But this match, yeah, you're right. The Judgment Day do need it, and I think Dominic, he's not going to pin AJ again. I think he'll pin. It'll be one of the other two.
I think
Actually,
he'll probably pin Carl Anderson because Carl Anderson beat Finn Balor on Raw.
okay.
So there's a receipt coming. So
this ought to be a good match, though. A
yeah,
lot of good moves. I think
yeah.
Rhea, she will. Well, the thing with having the women on the outside, though, because I mean they got to be covered up and everything
Mm-hmm.
too, even being valets. I could always see the referee sending her off and her going, "All right, good," and go backstage going,
Yeah.
you know, um, I can't stand wearing that those coveralls, but yeah, this ought to be a good match because I mean we know that the kind of stuff that these teams can put on and we also know Carl Anderson is a Roger Ruffin product.
Yeah. Yep.
So but the main event, and this is the one that they've been selling. This is the one the Saudis wanted.
Yeah. Yep. Logan Paul and Roman Reigns for the world title. I don't feel like doing that whole thing that they do. It's just the world title.
Yeah,
Is
it's
what they're fighting for.
and Logan Paul is not going to win this.
Yeah.
He's not.
Paul, nah.
He's not walking out of there with the belts.
No.
Because if they put the belts on Logan Paul, it wouldn't be as bad as putting them on David Arquette. But
yeah, for me it would be. I have more respect for David Arquette than I do Logan Paul.
Sorry, but David Arquette. Well, now we have respect for him because he, now he's become like a deathmatch guy.
Yeah,
and because he trained and he's wanting to get he was trying to earn that respect, which I get. Logan Paul's been trying to earn the respect.
I get it, but it's just I was talking to Savannah. Anybody who doesn't know, Savannah's my oldest daughter. She's a wrestling fan. I was talking to her and I was telling her about this match, and she's like, "Why is Logan Paul getting a world title match?" She's like, "How many matches has he had?" I said, 2. This will be his 3rd one. And she's like, "Why is he getting a title match?" And I'm like, "Because the Saudi government that's, paying for the show, he's a big deal over there. He's social media and everything, and they wanted him involved. So WWE put him in the match against Roman."
Which, okay, yes, it's going to draw money. Yes, it's going to. I mean, and with that sweet Saudi money,
it's going to draw money. It's going to draw eyes because everybody's going to watch just to see if they are bold enough to put the title on Logan Paul. And his brother Jake will be there.
Yep. Yeah, speaking of people that aren't allowed in certain countries,
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that.
Like, Talk
Yeah,
about sketch. It's like,
that dude. I mean, he tries to show up in Japan. They're like, no,
yep.
go,
It's like,
get out,
nope.
get out.
Don't even get off the plane.
Don't even
Just,
get. We'll make that plane turn around in midair
hmm
and go back. And and now I think it'll actually be a better match than what people, you know, would think
Yeah,
it would be.
it's not going to be a squash, and Roman is enough of a professional. Roman's going to give a lot of himself to Logan Paul to make Logan Paul look credible. But in the end, Logan Paul's taking a Superman punch and a spear, and
And a guillotine.
hopefully a guillotine, and either get choked out or knocked out, and he's going home.
I would say the guillotine because the guillotine, in a sense, kind of weird. It's one of the best moves to lose to if you
Yeah,
don't tap, if you pass
because
out.
yeah, if you pass out of the move, then it doesn't make you look weak if you pass out in the guillotine.
Exactly. Exactly. And I have a feeling that's going to happen. I mean, I'll see Roman Reigns with the guillotine. Um, and they'll also knock out Jake Paul, which I'll be honest with you, I kind of enjoy that.
I will pop for that if they
Yeah.
yes.
So, um, I don't know if Solo Sikoa is there. They didn't mention anything about Paul Heyman.
Yeah, I was wondering if Heyman was going to be there because Heyman wasn't at Cardiff either.
hmm.
Nobody came out with Roman. That's when Solo
Yeah,
interfered.
yep. And
Yeah,
because
but there
and
was no
you could definitely tell he's related to the Usos too,
yeah.
because when he's
He
had that hoodie on.
he looks just like Rikishi.
Yeah.
The other
And
two, no, Jimmy and Jay not so much, but Solo looks just like Rikishi.
and of course we know that, I mean, he's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Um, but even though Rikishi, I mean, he weighed 400 pounds. That dude was
That dude
like
could move.
he was like a cat.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's my call on that one. Reigns with the guillotine. There will be shenanigans, but he's still going to take it.
Oh yeah. There's going to be shenanigans. Logan Paul's going to try to knock him out because they're hyping up the hand with the screw, the broken hand with the screws in it. Roman said something on Raw to the Miz. He's like, because the Miz tried to come out and cut a deal or whatever, and Roman's like, "Why is everybody talking about Logan Paul knocking me out?" And then he hit the Miz with the Superman punch. He's like, "They should be talking about me knocking Logan Paul out."
And I think this animosity between Jey Uso and everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to kind of that's going to kind of subside. They're not going to at some point they're going to have Jey and Roman in a match, or
Oh
Jey
yeah,
and Jimmy in a match.
yeah. Or
And
actually, Jay and Sammy would be the match.
Jey, well, yeah. But they're obviously not going to do that over there because Sammy's not going to be there. It's like, well,
Yeah,
see you later. Have
yeah,
fun storming the castle.
yeah.
Um, but even though Sammy, he'd be that dude, he's even though he's a heel, everybody is loving some Sami Zayn right now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um, and he also looks like Fidel Castro right now too. Um, but yeah, so yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm actually looking forward to watching this one. There's like you said, there's only one match, which I'm not looking forward to seeing. And there's only one match that's going to be kind of scientific. Um, but the rest of it, I mean, it's going to be enjoyable. I don't think it'll be a 5-star event.
No, but I think it'll be. I think it'll be enjoyable. I think it'll be a good match,
Mhm.
a good show to watch.
um, and every time you talk about Savannah, I just want to challenge her to a game of chess, just to see.
Dude, she's good. I've been trying to beat her. I got close a couple of weeks ago, and then lost my focus, and I made one stupid move, and she saw it, and that was it.
So she looks at the chessboard and she's like Goodwill Hunting. She just sees Beethoven.
I don't know what she sees. I just know that girl sees that board better than anybody we've ever played with. And we've done tournaments, and she sees the board better than people we've played in tournaments.
Oh,
I mean, she is that good. And it's like, Sometimes she has beaten me in 5 moves.
Wow.
Just like effortless, just like
Yeah, just
checkmate. And I'm like,
and you taught her the basics on how to play.
I taught her how to play, and
Yeah.
then now she's untouchable.
Uh, and see, that makes me scared, but at the same time, it makes me go, I gotta know. I gotta
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
uh,
She's wanting to play my brother, and I said you don't want that because if you beat him, he's never going to play you again. And then if he wins, he's never going to play you again.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's like me. 9 years ago, I finally beat my dad in Yahtzee for the first time ever,
Yeah,
and I looked at him and said, "I ain't playing you anymore.
it's like that's
I'm
it.
I'm going out as champion." I
Yeah,
mean,
I retired.
yep. And I'm pretty sure you live by the thing. I don't let my kids win. If they win, they do it on their own.
Oh,
That
that's how.
way,
No,
yeah,
you've got to earn that. No,
yeah. I mean, now I'm not going to go out of my way to blitzkrieg somebody, but at the same
right.
time, if they win, they have to learn how to do it on their own because that way they,
Yep.
yep.
Hmm.
But all right, so um, like I said, next Thursday we
Hmm.
might have an interview lined up. Um, Monday more than likely will be a review
Yep. Of Crown Jewel.
of
Yep.
Crown Jewel. Just kind of depend on what all's happening, and we're trying to get other interviews lined up.
Hmm.
We were just talking about that before,
Yeah.
and I will have to hit that person up to see if we can maybe do that other extra thing next week. So, and I'll let you know how that goes.
Okay. Yeah.
But until we talk again, my friend, good night
All right.
and God bless.
God bless.